Hello there. Well, I have to say this is definitely an improvement. This is the replacement of Matt Gaetz. He has nominated Pam Bondi for Attorney General. And I think it's a good selection, definitely an improvement from the previous scandal-ridden Matt Gaetz. So, a couple reasons is that she's already served with Trump in his previous term, and she didn't prove to be outlandish or traitor or anything like that like Pence was. I mean, Pence didn't even have the courage to say that the machines were Wi-Fi capable against the law. That was proven, and to this day, the judge who oversaw the trial of the woman who exposed that is not prosecuted. He should be removed from the bench and prosecuted as conspiracy to the voter election fraud. When the law says you cannot have Wi-Fi capable machines, then you should not have Wi-Fi capable machines. The second reason that it was fraud is because you have laws that are being worked around to open doors for voter fraud that was caught in this last election as well, in removing people who voted illegally. But you have the situation of the law where you cannot purge the rolls for 90 days to the date of election, and then you have states who have allowed people to register within days of the election date, which is insanity. And Pence should have advocated against that. He should have said, listen, as long as these states are passing these laws to allow them to register within 90 days, and you don't have legislators trying to pass laws to block that, to close that loophole door for fraud, then you can never say there's integrity with our system. I mean, there's so many things he could have said, but anyways. So this woman here has already served with him on another position, and she's a former prosecutor, tough on crime, and et cetera, drug smuggling. So, anyways, yeah. And she's not accused of rape. So, I think it's bad if somebody's accused of rape that's innocent just to attack them politically. That's really hard. But I think it will make it harder to accuse her of rape. Not that if they want to create a scandal, and if that's really their motive to do things, but definitely I think he should take more caution to pick people who isn't like fodder for the other side by having scandals already, accusations already against them. I mean, sadly, you just have to avoid those situations. So I commend his picks so far. I don't know anything about her personally or whatever, but just on the surface, she's already served our country in administration on his first term, and I think this is definitely an improvement. Now, if he would just get with the program with Pete Hegseth, I just pray that he is not confirmed. Oh my goodness. Wow. This is our current Director of Department of Defense, Lloyd Austin III. He's a graduate of U.S. Military Academy, West Point, New York. He served 41 years active duty. He retired as a 4-star Army general after 3 years as commander of the United States Central Command. Now that's somebody with experience who should head literally the Department of Defense of our nation. Now let's compare him to Hegseth. He was born in 1980. He was a former Army National Guard officer. Never even served an active duty branch. He was a guardsman, weekend warrior, which I'm not putting down guardsmen because I served in the National Guard. I also served in the United States Army. I served in both branches. They're two different lifestyles. They're two different things. And he did have some deployments, but he has nowhere any type of experience to take that very serious role that Lloyd Austin has. He had a couple of deployments as a guardsman. He left the Guard service and then rejoined in 2019. But then in 2021, he was authorized by the Pentagon to be put on active duty to protect the inauguration of Joe Biden, which was a brief assignment on January 20, 2021, but he was one of 12 soldiers removed from that mission. And you have to be on an extremely high standard to be put on that list. So removing him from that list, which again, very high standards to be selected to be on that list, is not inappropriate, because in the military, your freedom of expression and freedom of speech it's very stringent, because you're dealing with very sensitive different cultures in different countries. And so if you're wearing a tattoo that is connected or gives the appearance of being connected, regardless of what your motive is, it is forbidden in the military. And so there are extremist groups who wear the Nazi cross, and I'm not talking about the swastika, but there is a Nazi cross that is used and has been used since. You can look at pictures. You can just Google Ku Klux Klan and look on their uniforms, their outfits, whatever you want to call it, from all the way back to the 60s, and they wear the same cross. And so that particular cross and those words were being used widely, and it was known by extremist groups. So his choosing to say, well, I don't care if extremists are using it, I'm using it, then he was basically disobeying the standard of the military. And that is, if extremists are using whatever symbol, then you can't wear it on your body. Okay? And if you do have such a tattoo, the least you can do is cover it up or be willing, but he somehow made it on the list for that assignment, but he was removed because a fellow guard member who was the unit security manager and on an anti-terrorism team warned them about the tattoo. Because just imagine if he shows up and he's in the pictures and he's on that team or whatever, and people get wind of that and they see that tattoo on him. Biden doesn't want to be connected to somebody near him that was selected to be near him who's wearing the same type of crosses that extremists and racist and Ku Klux Klan groups are wearing. I mean, that's going to be a spitfire in the media. So it's only reasonable that, of course, they removed him. And then he got his feelings hurt, and then he resigned because of that. And I'm like, dude, that's just unreasonable that he even wore that. Also, he's kind of flaky. He's kind of like a I don't know how to say it nicely, butt kisser. So initially, he backed Marco Rubio, then Ted Cruz, and then ultimately Donald Trump because he came out more powerful. It's like, he's just not grounded. Compared to this guy, he didn't do a couple brief deployments, which, by the way, the ones where he was actually in any hostile environment considered to be combat-oriented, he volunteered for. And this guy, compared to Pete Hegseth, who never even was in active duty other than his brief deployments with the Guard, this guy served 41 years in active duty military. That's his whole life he gave to the military in our country. And he retired as a 4-star Army general after 3 years as a commander of United States Central Command. That's a very, very experienced person to be sitting in a position that's so serious as Secretary of Defense. I'm like, Trump is just showing his knee-jerk weakness in his pick for such a position. He's more like somebody who's, it's more personal, like the things that they've done to Donald, I think, have affected his judgment because they have persecuted him, which, by the way, he has resisted. Donald Trump, if he has a strong point, his probably strongest strong point is that he doesn't back down from what he believes, regardless of persecution. He will never waver, right? And that's a strength. But he's picking people who he feels like will back him, will be on his side. He's been stabbed in the back. Trump, I mean, oh my gosh, his own vice president pick was a traitor to him. So now he's just picking people he thinks like, well, I think this guy is true blue. He won't, you know what I'm saying? Hegseth is a suck up. But he has no business leading the Department of Defense. He's very immature. He's very unrealistic about even what combat roles are. And he's got serious problems when it comes to, oh my gosh, he's out there accused of rape, having to pay women who have done police reports. And although it was a situation where they didn't feel there was enough evidence to prove, because it was basically his he say, she say, but there was definitely reports. And like, why would he, if he felt that he was innocent, why wasn't he able to prove it? If he's like thinking that, well, she's not believable, then why didn't you sue her for defamation instead of paying her money for a non-disclosure agreement? That's just disgusting, and he's just problematic. And he's just, anyways, God help our country. I think Trump could do better. He needs to go and look at the military commanders who have led for decades and are experienced with much more experience than Pete Hegseth. And I just pray that he will reconsider. I pray that Hegseth will not be confirmed, and it's very rare that a nomination is not confirmed, but I pray that he will be one of those rare situations where he's not. And that he will choose somebody that will be more experienced in general.